Our reporters are getting us the latest on the crucial hearing that's underway at this moment in the Dominican Court in the Mehul Choksi case. Mehul Choksi is in hospital. He's joined the proceedings via Zoom. There's an 8-member Indian team that's present in the courtroom. The judge is Bernie Stephenson. The hearing of this case is currently on. Geeta Mohan tracks external affairs. Munish Pandey is tracking India's investigative agencies. Munish, to you first. What is the case the Indian prosecution side will be arguing at this moment inside this courtroom in Dominica? What are your sources telling you?
Yeah, well, Rahul, what India is trying to prove that Mehul Choksi, first of all, is an Indian citizen, so he should be deported back to India. The second is that they will try to convince the court that this man, which is in your custody, he is accused of a very serious economic fraud. He has defrauded more than 13,000 crore from a Punjab National Bank along with Nirav Modi and is absconding from last 3 years. So he should be sent back to India. And the third and most important is going to be the red corner notice issued by the Interpol against Mehul Choksi. So these are the 3 points on which the entire narrative of the case is going to be built before the court today. And what we have been given to understand is that there are 2 officials from the Central Bureau of Investigation who are heading the entire operation, including Sharda Raut, a DIG level officer of Central Bureau of Investigation. All these documents pertaining to his Indian nationality, his criminal activities, and the red corner notice, all these documents have been given to the prosecutors of Dominican authorities. And what we have been given to understand is, Rahul, that in principle, and Dominican authorities and Dominican government has agreed to deport Mehul Choksi. Now, it is only up to the Dominican Court because Antigua has already said that they do not want Mehul Choksi back to their country. And India thinks that this is a golden moment for them to bring back Mehul Choksi, who's absconding since January 2018.
Okay, so I want to give our viewers a sense of what we gathered by speaking to sources in the investigative agencies about the case that India would try to argue in the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court in Dominica, where this case is currently being heard. Take a look at this report.
Endgame Mehul Choksi. An 8-member Indian team in Antigua to bring the fugitive back to Delhi if the Dominican court orders his extradition, that is. The team headed by CBI officer Sharda Raut, the leading officer in the 13,000 crore PNB scam in which Choksi is the key accused. India is to prove that Choksi is an Indian citizen who never completed the formalities and paperwork to surrender his Indian citizenship while taking citizenship of Antigua. To support the claims, Indian authorities have gathered documents including Mehul Choksi's Aadhaar, PAN, ration cards, which show that he's still an active Indian citizen. The documents have been submitted before the Dominican Court. The Enforcement Directorate will try to convince the court that the man in their custody is a wanted accused since January 2018, and based on the red corner notice by Interpol, he should be deported back to India immediately. Enforcement Directorate officials are also trying to ensure that Mehul Choksi's case in Dominica should not get stuck in legalities, else it will be a long wait for India. India today has learnt that if Mehul Choksi, the scamster, is deported, then he will be brought to Delhi in this private jet by a team of officials, and Raut will formally arrest him as soon as he sets foot in Delhi. The Indian officials held several meetings with the Dominican authorities to ensure that India has a strong case. To mount the heat, the Central Financial Probe Agency is in touch with the Indian team in Dominica, and concrete evidence against Mehul Choksi has been shared with them. After a 3-year wait, could this be the beginnings of D-Day for Mehul Choksi, when India will get the fugitive back? With Munish Pandey in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
So at this moment, there seems to be no clear answer to the mystery surrounding Choksi's trip to Dominica. At the center of this mystery is one woman. The Antiguan Prime Minister claimed that this woman is Choksi's girlfriend, who he took away on a romantic holiday. Choksi's lawyer, now we've spoken to his wife as well, says that this woman was part of an elaborate conspiracy to abduct Choksi and take him out of Antigua. Who is this woman?
The suspected mystery woman in the Mehul Choksi case. the woman who's alleged to have befriended him, and then according to the fugitive Diamante, Mehul Choksi's lawyer played a key role in his going missing from the upscale Jolly Beach front at Antigua. Antigua's Prime Minister Gaston Brown went on record to say Mehul Choksi went out for dinner and a good time with his girlfriend.
Mehul Choksi may have made a mistake to travel to Dominica. The information that we're getting now is that he may have taken his girlfriend to Dominica, probably to dinner to have a good time and so on, and got caught.
The Antigua police chief insists there was no abduction or violence on the island.
No information or any indication from Antigua that he was forcefully removed. So we have no information, we have no evidence that he was forcefully removed from Antigua.
However, Choksi's wife, Preeti Chokshi, told journalists in Antigua that the mystery woman first befriended the chef and then started going out for walks with her husband, a fact echoed by the family lawyer.
महिला थी जो उनके पड़ोस में आके रहती थी और फिर उन्होंने शिफ्ट कर लिया था, तो उनकी फैमिली में भी आना जाना था. इवनिंग में वॉक पे मिल जाते थे दोनों आपस में.
According to information provided by the family, the mystery woman introduced herself as a property and investment consultant who had studied at the London School of Economics. She and Choksi started going out for evening walks regularly. Usually, according to the family, they went for a walk on the north side of the beach with CCTV cameras outside houses. But the day he went missing, they were apparently walking on the north side of the beach with no CCTV cameras. The family claims no CCTV camera footage of any violence or abduction was recovered. The mystery woman is believed to have rented a property close to Choksi in August 2020, but has not been spotted since the day he disappeared.
वो लेडी पहले शिफ्ट हुई थी और जो पूरा पता चल रहा है कि वो भी इस ऑपरेशन का हिस्सा थी. तो इनको ट्रैप करने के लिए वो लेडी को सीड किया गया था.
Choksi's lawyers also allege that Indian sounding voices were heard from a house around the time that Choksi disappeared, but have not elaborated who heard these voices. With Munish Pandey and Geeta Mohan, Bureau Report, India Today.
India Today spoke exclusively to Mehul Choksi's wife Preeti Choksi, who's claiming that her husband was abducted from Antigua, and questioned why Choksi was tortured and abused. Here is Preeti Choksi in conversation with India Today.
What exactly do you, as the Mehul Choksi's wife, think about the current situation that is going on?
We are anguished, deeply anguished at how he has been treated, how his life has been put at risk in this kidnapping attempt. And we are shocked at some of the comments that are coming in the media from the administration of Antigua and Barbuda. He is a citizen.
Preeti Choksi joins us now live from Antigua. Ma'am, can you give us your best sense of what you know, what's happening inside the courtroom in Antigua at this moment, and why is it that you believe that the Indian government's case for Mehul Choksi, your husband, to be sent back to India is weak?
Good evening, Rahul. I think you meant what is happening in the High Court of Dominica at this moment. Honestly, I am not aware. My heart is, I cannot tell you what we are going through as a family. We are traumatized, and I am not watching the news. I'm talking to you. So
I appreciate that. Can you give us a sense of what really went down in Antigua? We've heard so many different stories, so many theories about how Mehul Choksi ended up in Dominica. It's on the 23rd of May that he was reported missing from Antigua and Barbuda. Were you with him at that moment? When is the last time you spoke to him, and how did your husband go missing, ma'am?
He left home to go for dinner. He left home at 5:10 p.m. on Sunday the 23rd, and he then went to pick up a lady called Barbara who was joining him for dinner. When he got there, he was in his car, and she came out of the house and she said, "Can you come in for a moment? I want to show you something." She said she is in the renovation business of houses and things. My husband stepped out of the car. The car was left running. His house keys and everything was in the car. He went to just see what she was showing. All the house doors were open. After he entered that house, from both sides, men dressed in navy blue pants and a jacket rushed in from both ends and claimed, and some of them had Indian accents, they claimed that they were police. They knew who he was, and they were going to take him to St. John's police station. He knew. They started hitting him then, and they started tasering him. Then they put him in a wheelchair, tied him up, gagged his mouth, put a mask over his head, and put him in the whole wheelchair into a smaller boat or some sort of boat, and took him out. He was half conscious, half unconscious. He next remembers being lifted onto a bigger boat. Now, I have heard that that boat is the Calliope de Arms. And as soon as that boat, which was illegally at that time in Antiguan waters, left Antiguan waters, it turned its GPS off. So after that, that is what we know about his being taken.
Pardon me asking a bit of an awkward question, but the Antiguan Prime Minister came on record with India Today to say that Barbara Jabarika, this lady who travelled with Mehul Choksi to Dominica, was his girlfriend. What are you making of the Antiguan Prime Minister's claims that your husband Mehul Choksi actually willingly accompanied Barbara?
As the entire family, we are deeply anguished by the comments of the Antiguan Prime Minister. First of all, there is a police investigation on, and I believe he should have waited for the facts to come out before making these kind of comments. If that lady went supposedly to Dominica, where is she? Where is the Dominican police report on her? When they found my husband in Dominica, he was put into, from this boat into a boat of another police vessel, and he told them who he was, that he is an Antiguan, and that he has been kidnapped. Where is the kidnapping report of my husband, which is a crime? It is an international crime, kidnapping. So my question is, where is this boat today? Where is the crew? And where is Barbara?
Do you know Barbara? Have you ever met her? Because from what I'm reading from Antigua, apparently Mehul used to go out for walks with her very frequently. Did you know of Barbara as being one of his friends?
So I have not met Barbara. I have never talked to Barbara, but I do know that she and her girlfriend or boyfriend had taken a house very near to our house in August of last year, from 2nd August to 7th of August. And at that time, when my husband would go for a walk, or she would join like a normal walking thing, and other people also knew her because the walkers know each other. And then I believe she came to the island again in April and tried to make contact with my husband. Then also I know that in May she made contact with my husband, and they went for a walk again on Friday and Saturday, May 21st and May 22nd on Jolly Beach South, which is a very public beach. My husband doesn't like to walk in secluded beaches. That is what I know about her, but I also know that there are reports that she left the island at about 7 or 8 p.m. on the day of the kidnapping.
Does she sound like your sense of whether someone put her up to this? Was she a honey trap? Was she part of some operation, business rivalry, or investigative agencies probably who were trying to whisk your husband away from Antigua? What's your sense, ma'am?
Well, from what I have heard is that the picture that has been circulated in the media is not the same woman who was the Barbara that was here. That in itself is a big question mark. And I believe that she goes by 3 names so far, that her profiles have been constantly changing. Someone is maintaining her accounts or whatever. So you do not even have the real picture of the Barbara who was here.
Can I ask you, in what way is she different, the Barbara who'd walk with your husband and the Barbara that you're seeing on TV?
May I just complete?
Yes.
May I just complete?
Please.
From what it is, indications seem to be that she was not who she was. She may be working for another agency, maybe, and investigations are on.
Okay. And how have the last several months been since 2017? Now we've got the Indian government claiming that your husband never really gave up formally and technically his Indian nationality, even though he took up Antiguan nationality, because some of the documents which have been submitted back were not submitted back, even though the law says that when you assume nationality of another country, you then become a national of that country and you cease to be an Indian country, Indian national. But how are you making, what are you making of what's playing itself out at this moment?
Again, as I said, I'm not aware of what is being played out, but I do know one thing, that my husband became a citizen of Antigua and Barbuda in 2017. He became so legally. There was the government of Antigua and Barbuda had a check done on him by Interpol in 2017, and the Indian government had not the government. The foreign ministry and the police have given a no objection certificate in 2017. He became a citizen of Antigua, and as per what our lawyers tell us, and as per the Constitution of India, anyone who becomes a citizen of another country relinquishes their citizenship of India automatically. There are no ifs and buts.
The Indian government at this time is very hopeful that they'll be able to get Mehul Choksi back. In some senses, your husband, ma'am, has become a showcase for the government's efforts to go after economic offenders. Are you a worried woman at this time that your husband's fate quite literally hangs by a thread depending on what happens in this court in Dominica?
I would say that if this is how you showcase, or anyone wishes to showcase an economic offender by torturing them, threatening to kill them, giving them electrical shocks, it is incredible that any business person feels safe in India. My husband was a businessman. He never had an NPA until this whole saga of PNB started, alleged saga. There was never an NPA in the company. And yet, everything is like he is the biggest terrorist or murderer on earth. I would request Interpol and all the world bodies, human rights bodies, and everyone to understand that this is a kidnapping that went wrong, and it should not be allowed to become a hostage situation. My husband is a citizen of Antigua and Barbuda, and it is the duty of Antigua and Barbuda to look after their citizens. They must take him back, and he should not become a hostage in a country where he is not a citizen and does not enjoy any legal rights or protection.
Okay, and finally, we haven't had an opportunity to speak to you before this. You would permit me to ask, what do you make of the charges? There's a case by the CBI, there's a charge by the Enforcement Directorate as well. Your husband is charged in the Punjab National Bank case of fraud to a very high extent, along with Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi. So what do you have to say about the charges that have been leveled both by the CBI and the ED against your husband, ma'am?
I believe that charges are accusations of one side, and investigation should be done on them. When someone refuses to come and take a statement, that again brings up a lot of question marks. But the main thing is that why are the people who are investigating this, firstly, in the first case, the Nirav Modi case, which was filed on 29th of January 2018, and the FIR, I believe you call it, 31st of January 2018.
It's now a charge sheet. The FIR came initially on the 31st of January 2018, but after that the CBI has gone out and filed a charge sheet in May.
Rahul, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
May I? That in that FIR, it is claimed by the Punjab National Bank, the second largest bank of India, that he was a partner of a company called Diamonds R Us. And my husband ceased to be a partner of that company in May 2020, 18 years previously. I fail to understand why his name was included, and I believe the press should have investigated this. Also, the CBI should have investigated this.
Can I ask you, why do you think your husband's name was included?
Charge sheet. Now let's the charge sheet that was filed in Nirav Modi's case. I believe in that charge sheet, my husband is not charged with anything, because he was not ever involved with Nirav Modi. We had no business transactions with Nirav Modi.
Well, I have a copy of the charge sheet over here. It says that it is alleged that LOUs were unauthorized used by the accused bank officials in conspiracy with Nirav Modi, Nishal Modi, Mehul, Chinubai, Choksi and others without having sanction limit and without obtaining 100% cash margin, which is required if there is no sanction limit. There are multiple entries in the charge sheet which deal directly with acts of omission and commission by your husband, ma'am.
Rahul, that is the FIR.
That's the charge sheet.
The charge sheet, no, it's in, that is the FIR put in the charge sheet. In the charge sheet, if you read, there is no mention of my husband. This is the first report. So it goes into the beginning of the charge sheet.
Well, if there is no charge, then why is the Indian government and why are 8 officials of the Indian government at this moment trying to deport your husband back to the country?
Yes. Let's be clear. Okay, Rahul, there are two cases. Okay, two distinct cases. There is a Nirav Modi case, which was filed in January 29th, 2018 and 31st, whatever. Then there is a second case, which is against my husband's companies and against my husband's publicly listed companies whose accounts are in the public domain. Okay? These are public companies. And that is the second FIR. This is not one case. These are two very distinct, separate cases.
Leave it to the courts to decide, because I don't want to run a kangaroo court. You've said your piece. It's ultimately in a court of law that Mehul Choksi must prove his innocence or his guilt must be established. Preeti Choksi, for joining us from Antigua, you gave us details of what you thought happened, what you saw happen in front of you. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you. Joining me on this broadcast for perspective on what could happen from here, we have Rupin Sharma. He's the Director General of Police Border Affairs in Nagaland. He's important because he's been involved in previous cases when we've tried to extradite or deport high-profile fugitives like we're trying in this case. Vijay Agarwal is the high-profile lawyer who helped set up that interview with Mrs. Choksi. He's also helping Mehul Choksi and has been helping fight their case. We have with us on this broadcast Pawan Lal. He's the actor of Flawed, The Rise and Fall of India's Diamond Mughal Nirav Modi. He's been tracking these diamond merchants very closely. Vishnu Prakash is one of our well-regarded diplomats. We've got Aman Sinha, advocate in the Supreme Court, and Shantanu Sen, who's been with the CBI. I want to go across first and foremost to Shantanu Sen. The critical element that the judge in Dominica needs to decide on at this moment is whether Mehul Choksi will stay in Dominica for the time being. Will he be sent back to Antigua, or can he be deported to India? On balance, given what you know in the public domain, what do you think, sir, is most likely to happen?
He has entered Dominica illegally, so therefore he can be deported to the place from where he has entered Dominica. He is likely to, if he loses his case, he is going to go back to Antigua, Barbados, Barbuda. He can't be brought to India because he has not fled from India to Dominican Republic. You remember the persons who hijacked the Indian plane and were caught in Dubai long ago, and the Additional Secretary Mr. Grover was there. He arranged the deportation, and they were deported back to India because they had fled illegally from India. So deportation is easy and can be done, but it has to be to the country from where you have fled. If they hold that he has been brought here illegally, they will deport him to Antigua.
I want to go across to Gail Parolin. He's joining us from Dominica. He's tracking this case very, very closely. Gail, welcome, ma'am. Can you give us a sense of what's happening in the Dominican courtroom at this moment? Are you picking up anything from what's happening inside?
Okay, so absolutely. So from the updates that I have received, it appears that Attorney Lennox Lawrence made a motion to throw out this case. However, Shillingford is currently opposing that.
So isn't Lennox the leader of the opposition in Dominica? Is it usual for the key leader of the opposition to come in and argue on behalf of someone that the Indian government thinks is guilty and wants him back?
So right now, Lennox Linton is the leader of the opposition. Lennox Lawrence, he is an attorney at law here in Dominica.
But is it not correct that you've got the opposition in Dominica very closely batting or aligned with the cause of Mehul Choksi? In fact, they've been supporting him publicly?
Of course, I cannot deny or confirm that. I did actually see Mr. Lennox Linton go in to the courtroom, but I can neither deny or confirm where he currently stands.
And how long typically do you think such a hearing could go on for? Do you have any idea at all?
Well, because of the gravity of the situation around this particular hearing, it may take some time, but I cannot give an estimated time of when it exactly will be done. Right now, as we speak, Cara Shillingford is giving her side as to why this case should not be thrown out.
Okay, and is this case being tracked in Dominica very closely? Is it all across the local media? Are locals following it? It doesn't bother them very much.
Absolutely. So right now, the locals seem to be very much aware of the situation that's going on. They themselves have been keeping their ears on the Indian news stations, keeping track of the entire situation, because of course, it does extend to Dominicans as much as it does extend to India. So absolutely, the local citizens seem to be very much aware of what's going on. We do have a reporter on our side just in here sitting in on the case and getting the important details so he can deliver to us as soon as the case is done.
What's the mood on the street in Dominica? If people are following this case, what are they making of the charges against this diamond merchant and India's desire to bring him back and face trial in India?
Well, of course, from my perspective, what I have seen is that many people do agree that, of course, well, there seems to be sort of a split, I would say. So some agree that, you know, he should return to Antigua. Some agree that he should be sent to India. So it's a little bit 50-50. But what I can do is that I can definitely get the input of some local citizens as they come across the courtroom, see what their perspective on this matter is.
Appreciate that, Gail Parolin. Thank you so much for joining us. We will come back to you for more later. I want to go across now to Rupin Sharma, who's been involved in such cases. You just heard from Shantanu Sen, the former Joint Director of the CBI, that it's most likely that Mehul Choksi would be sent back to Antigua, where he came from, because A, he's a national of Antigua, B, he left Antigua illegally. Vijay Agarwal is arguing that he was whisked away, the wife saying being beaten up allegedly by Indian investigative agencies, the people acting on their behalf. As someone who's been involved in similar situations in the past, what are you making of this case? What do you think will happen?
Yeah, Rahul, good evening. I'd just like to add another thing to what Mr. Sen has said. Deportation is the sovereign right of the country on whose territory a person is found. Now, in such cases, the country on whose territory a person is found has usually two options. The first option is to send the person back to the territory from where he entered. The other option is to send him back to the country to which he belongs, of which he is a citizen. Now, that becomes tricky because Mehul Choksi continues to be a citizen of Antigua, and he has not irrevocably given up his Indian citizenship as things stand today. So it's important for us to prove that Mehul still is an Indian national.
But how will you prove it? I was reading Indian law. Indian law as it stands at this moment says, if you assume nationality of another country, you cease to be an Indian national, because India doesn't allow for dual citizenship. So according to Section 9 of the Indian Citizenship Act of 1955, any citizen who acquires foreign citizenship at that moment itself ceases to be an Indian citizen, sir.
Yes, that part is tricky. Rahul, the electricity...
Don't worry, you're in Nagaland, electricity goes off even in India. Please go on speaking, Rupan. We'll just listen to what you're saying.
So that's the tricky part, that India would have to prove that. Now, if the Indian law says that, I don't know how we will overcome that aspect. But on the other hand, there is also the condition that I've read a report that Antigua has also, the Prime Minister has written to him serving a notice, I believe in 2019, that his citizenship can be taken away because he has misrepresented facts. So I don't know what has happened, but he continues to be an Antiguan citizen.
So let's just wait for that light to come back, or you make some alternate arrangements. Till then, Vijay Agarwal, now here's the key thing. The Antiguan Prime Minister seems pretty keen to get rid of Mehul Choksi. Given the pressure India is putting on this case, from all of what I've seen from the Antiguan Prime Minister, he says take him away from Dominica, just take him back. So he's not even insisting on behalf of the government of Antigua that your client be sent back.
See, as a head of a country, it is his constitutional duty to protect his citizen. At this moment, there is no denial of the fact that Mr. Mehul Choksi was, is, and continues to be Antiguan citizen. So, if I am citizen of a country, what is the duty of the head of the state towards me? So, if a particular head of the state chooses not to perform the duty, then what can I say? So, it is giving a very bad impression to the world that a country deserts its own citizen. They should say that why should any other country try my citizen? The provision of Extradition Act has to be followed. So they should say they should be doing lobbying about it. They should be giving the legal help so that Mr. Mehul Choksi comes back to Antigua, and in Antigua he faces the legal process. If he is to be extradited, he will be extradited.
But they're not doing that. That's what you'd like them to do. But they've pretty much left Mehul Choksi to his own devices. So the legal case that you build up in Dominica is all that will save him. Otherwise, the Antiguan government is ready to let him go.
Yes, that is what pains me, and I have never seen that any head of the state or any state leaving its citizen in lurch. So good luck to them. So now we are the people of the last resort. So now Mehul Choksi has to rely only on the lawyers.
Okay, Aman Sinha, you know, you heard from what the Joint Director of the CBI said. You've heard also from the lawyer of Mehul Choksi. Is this, you're an advocate yourself, is this looking like a really tough case? While the Indian government and supporters of the BJP would like to get Mehul Choksi back, the law at this moment seems to favor Choksi going back to Antigua.
That's not correct in my opinion. As a senior advocate, I can tell you, Rahul, Mehul Choksi is a fugitive from Indian law. He's wanted in multi-crore, 14,000 crore PNB scam and fraud cases. They're very serious criminal cases under Prevention of Money Laundering Act, the Fugitive Economic Offenders Act, cheating, criminal conspiracy, etc. and not even dwelling into details. And it seems he had exhausted all the remedies which were available to him in Antigua because extradition proceedings were going on. In Antigua, he tried to escape to Cuba. On way, he was caught by this Dominican police. Now, there are red corner notices, Interpol warrants issued against Mehul Choksi. Mehul Choksi has not evaded to Antigua because of love for Antigua. This is not a case for niceties of the Passport Act, etc. This is a biggest fraudster who is running away, evading the Indian jurisprudence, Indian criminal law. And if this same analogy is repeated in other cases, people will commit frauds here. They'll buy citizenship in some other country and say that we have surrendered citizenship and cease to be
Vishnu
Indian
Prakash,
citizen.
Ambassador, Aman Sinha obviously brings a political view to this. Given your non-partisan position, do you buy the argument that Aman Sinha is making that we'll be able to push? Obviously, we'll use our diplomatic might, but how much diplomatic might do we have in these Caribbean countries, especially Dominica? Can that at any level influence what the courts do? Because the courts will claim complete independence. What do you think is most likely to happen, sir?
Rahul, good evening. What Mr. Sinha says, there is logic in it. I want to make 3 points. One, I would just draw your attention to your discussion with Mrs. Preeti Choksi. I was quite, quote unquote, impressed by the lawyer-like arguments, crystal clear, calm, composed, detailed discussion. I, in my career, have never seen that. So that is one, which is very
That must be Vijay Agarwal and the defense team trying to train her up.
Well, I just want to make observations. I leave the conclusions to you.
Okay.
Second, there are what Mr. Choksi is doing, and I also have a legal background, by the way. He is trying to explore all legal options. Very interestingly, I would like to point out to you that the Court of Appeal, in the case of Dominica, because at the moment it is being held in Dominica, in designated cases is the Caribbean Court of Justice, which is in Port of Spain. And the Court of Appeal in case of Antigua and Bermuda in defined cases is the Privy Council. So by coming here he's got 4 options opening up. And suppose, I would bet almost that suppose the decision goes against him, I'm sure his lawyers are ready to immediately go in appeal at the Caribbean Court of Justice in Port of Spain. So it is quite interesting and noteworthy. Last point I would like to make is there's a very big difference between extradition and deportation. Sure. Dominica has every right to deport him, not just to Antigua, but to India. And his citizenship has been revoked because you were very right, Section 9 of the Citizenship Act basically makes it automatic for revocation of citizenship. So it is not his citizenship, but it is the fact that he has allegedly engaged in economic offenses. And the Prime Minister of Antigua has already said so with all understanding of the system that Dominica should directly deport him to India. So there is no legal hurdle. It's just that I am apprehensive that his team is ready to get a stay and to stretch out the legal process as long as possible.
Is that your backup plan, Vijay Agarwal, in case you don't get a favorable verdict in this Dominican court, for you to immediately go to Port of Spain and put in an appeal there?
See, at the moment it will not be required because the case in Dominica court today is not regarding whether he should be sent to India. It is a habeas corpus petition. So the all hoopla is created by sending the jet there and the officers there. I wish them good luck. I wish them very happy vacations at the government expense, at the taxpayers' expense. Please see, the case is habeas corpus petition that whether Mr. Mehul Choksi has done any crime in Dominica or not. His deportation, his extradition, whether India will take him, whether Antigua will take him, is none of the consideration. The problem is that everyone is becoming a lawyer. So the only thing is that without knowing the facts, so there is no case. I do not understand what business Indian authorities have to reach there and with a plane, and they are going to plead. They have to file their own petition. They are not the party.
So, I'm running out of time, but I want responses and I haven't gone to Pavan. Okay, so Aman Sinha, very quickly respond to that, please.
No, first of all, Rahul, under Rule 23 of the Indian citizenship rule, it is for the designated authority to accept the surrender of the passport, which was never done, even regardless of that, even regardless of the citizenship issue. We have seen in several cases, this government of India has been able to extradite and get deportation of people like Christian Michel in Augusta Westland case and other cases. So this is not mere case of whether he is citizen or not, and therefore he should not be extradited. He is evading and escaping the Indian law. He is declared fugitive of Indian law. There are Interpol red corner notices. There are Interpol warrants issued against him. And if at all he has to be deported to some country, it is India. Antigua has already refused to take him back. And therefore, I fail to understand the kind of points which are thought to be made here. They absolutely fall flat on legal principles, because there is no such pre-requirement even under Fugitive Economic Offenders Act or under Extradition Act, that you only need to be citizen of India, then only somebody could be extradited. So any fugitive who is evading the Indian law, who is a criminal under the Indian law, or who is alleged to be a criminal under the Indian law, the Indian government is fully entitled to secure his custody and take him to justice. And
Pavan, you've spoken and met Mehul Choksi many a times. What did you make of Preeti Choksi's interview? She seemed, as Vishnu Prakash correctly pointed out, very polished, very, very clear about what she wanted to say. It almost seems as if she'd been given a script and what buttons to touch and how to bring her case out.
Absolutely. I have to remark, her comments sounded almost like they were based in legalese and very cautious, very precise. I must admit, this is in the realm of speculation, but there were rumors a couple of years ago that actually Madam Choksi and Mr. Mehul Choksi had separated. And, I'm not sure where that is now currently. Perhaps they've reunited, and, it's a good thing if reunions happen, but that was the buzzing rumor a few years ago. I just want to add, Rahul, that, one of the key differences between Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi in their operating styles was that Nirav Modi never believed in a plan B. He believed in one plan, and his mission was to make it work. Mehul Choksi, on the other hand, believed in plan Bs, Cs, Ds, and plan Es. And I think it's important for all of us to realize that Antigua has been trying to revoke Mr. Choksi's citizenship for around a year now. So he's had plenty of time to be planning whatever his next steps are. And I think, to summarize finally, while the charges and the accusations and allegations against him in India may be defensible to some extent by Madam Choksi and her earlier comments, I don't think we can get away from the fact that the United States government and New York have also levied some very serious charges under RICO, which is your racketeering influenced and corrupt organizations. It's essentially organized crime, which involves money laundering, and Mr. Choksi has been named in that. So these are some serious charges. Yeah. Okay.
So Vishnu Prakash wanted to make a quick point before I end. Mr. Prakash?
Hello. Yeah, just one word. When Mr. Agarwal talks of only a habeas corpus petition and no other case, the Prime Minister of Antigua has said very clearly that he is guilty of illegal entry into Dominica. So the Dominican Court can very much take cognizance of that, Rahul.
No, but he didn't come of his own choice. If you see the marks he has, he and his lawyers will argue in court that he was brought here. They've got that story about the girl who acted like a honey trap, who lured him to that apartment where people attacked him and brought him there. If he'd come to Dominica of his own choice, it would have been a different matter. We're tracking this case very closely. There are arguments.
Can I just quickly respond to that?
Go on, go on.
It is now we are getting into he said, that said, they said, because one school of thought, and I'm just going by the possibilities, is that this could be self-inflicted wounds because it brings about multi-jurisdictional issues. and that helps in complicating the matter.
Shantanu Sen, do you buy that? That's a good argument. If the Indian agencies can argue that this is self-inflicted.
That's the point I was going to make. You see, you heard Preeti Chokshi and you praised her. Don't you think she knew details which she should not have known?
That's true.
That was kidnapping without her knowledge. How does she know so many details? She shows a planned kidnapping where she was briefed to say what she has to say. I
but why would he come to Dominica then? If he was okay in Antigua...
He's probably getting his citizenship revoked in where he was hiding so long, because there is a good case of revocation of his citizenship.
But sir, this is Mehul Choksi, flamboyant diamond merchant. Would he inflict such harm? Look at his eyes and how he's being beaten. Would somebody take that risk?
He will do anything, and that may not be that serious as you think. You can plan these things. After all, you know of makeup artists who can make you look miserable when you're really
okay,
not.
so and these are not people who are looking for a scandal. Shantanu Sen and Vishnu Prakash both have eminence. I want to go across.
I must say one thing before I conclude.
Yes.
Government of India would be well advised to continue with the charge sheet and get some convictions of those who have been arrested. 12 persons have been arrested so far, including the Vice President of Gitanjali Jewellers. That would give some teeth and muscle to the government charges of seriousness of taking this case.
Okay, Vijay Agarwal, final words.
See, my experience with the criminal law is that nobody would inflict injuries on the face. The man's eyes is gone. You can see the eye. So inflicted injuries are completely on the non-vital parts of the body. Any experienced person having the experience in the criminal law would say that self-inflicted injury would never be on a face, would never be on an eye.
Okay, Aman Sinha, quick words. I'm completely out of time.
Yes, very quickly, Rahul. First of all, this is certainly going to be a case of deportation. It is nobody's case that he has to be in Dominica or he's citizen of Dominica. Therefore, deportation is certainly going to be there. And I do not know about Mrs. Choksi's statement. If she has so much confidence, she should come here and submit to Indian law if she feels that there is so much merit.
So I'm out of time.
And that apart,
I must apologize to our guests and to our viewers. We have been 6 months with somebody, and then he says he's been forcibly kidnapped and taken to some other country by that particular girl. It's quite unbelievable, to say the least, really. Okay, I must tell our viewers that we've just heard from the court where the Dominican Public Prosecution Service has submitted before the Dominican High Court that the petition filed by Choksi is not maintainable and the petition should not be heard. Choksi has to be deported to India. That's what the Dominican government has submitted in their High Court. We will have more details on this when we come back on the other side. Thank you very much for joining in on the Newstrack tonight. More details coming up with Rajdeep Sardesai on his show News Today on the other side of a quick break.